I sort of fell in love with Parks and Recreation when my family moved to just outside of Philadelphia, and I found Alverthorpe Park. And this was like a magical place where everything I loved to do was available to me. And my friends and I were there all the time, playing. But when my friends went home, I often stayed. And there was a park guard there named Mr. Weber, uniformed park guard. And I was bugging him enough that he used to put me to work. And he'd put me to work sweeping tennis courts and basketball courts and picking up litter. And I found a love for recreation outdoors as well as going to resident camps. So after I graduated from college and I'd done resident camps for a couple of years, I had decided I was finished with resident camps. And I came up to New Hampshire to visit a friend of mine. And she was in this little town called Moultonborough, New Hampshire. And at the time, the population was 2,500. And she said to me, "What are you going to do this summer?" And I said, "I don't know yet. I haven't found a summer job." And she said, "Well, they just opened a park in Moultonborough. It was an LWCF-funded park. And we have a rec director. We have a rec department now. And maybe he would have some jobs for you." So I went down and I met with the new rec director. And he said, "Well, we've got 4 jobs open. We've got a playground counselor, tennis instructor, and I have 2 swimming instructor jobs open." And I said, well, I could do any one of those. And I ended up as a swimming instructor. Well, fast forward, the rec department was seasonal. And after 2 summers of working with them, I became the rec director, the seasonal rec director. And when August rolled around, and it was getting to the end of my seasonal position, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do after that, the selectmen, which would be for many people like a town council, the Board of Selectmen, called me into a Thursday night meeting. And they asked me a bunch of questions about rec departments and recreation. And then at the end of the meeting, they said, "How would you like to stay on and continue to do this?" And being young, I said yes. And I stayed there for 41 years. The interesting part about that is I started with really nothing. I had no job description, I had no budget, I had no direct supervision, I had no office. The only equipment and supplies that I had was what they had from the youth baseball program and the summer camp or summer playground program and the swimming equipment and tennis equipment. That was it. And like I said, I stayed there for 41 years and built that department into, I'm proud to say, a really great department when I left 41 years later. I think it's the best profession you could possibly be in. Every day that I went to work, even if I had my worst day, I knew that I was making people's lives better. I think that Parks and Recreation is that opportunity to do that. There's no better way, in my opinion, to make. You are touching people's lives from the time they're very small till they're very old. And I think that that is the most important thing that you can do. It's just, to me, the best way to make a living and make a life. Well, I think the passion is the first trait. You have to be passionate about what you do. You have to believe in everything you do. I think you need to put in the work, in that meaning that you go to conferences, that you get involved in your state associations and your professional associations, that you volunteer to do things. I think I would have been a different professional had I not been involved in the New Hampshire Recreation and Park Association, which led to me being involved in what was then the New England Regional Council, which led me to be involved in National Recreation and Park Association. And it made me a better professional, and making me a better professional translated back to a better community, because I was able to bring back this knowledge, and because you become a sponge and you absorb from all these other professionals what it is that made them great, and you try to aspire to being like them. So I think that that's really important as well. So when I retired, of course, a lot of it, I retired during COVID, which made it difficult. But it went out through Facebook. And I remember there was a young lady, and she came from a poorer family. And I had also done some coaching, and I coached her too. But she wrote to me through Facebook and said, "You saved my life." And she said the programs that we gave her, and especially, she talked especially about youth basketball, how it changed the trajectory of her life, and that how her life would have been different if she didn't have those programs. So I think that that is something that is incredible, that had she not offered me that, I might not have known that was true. But I know that out there in every single community that has recreation programming, recreation facilities, recreation services, recreation professionals, there are people that can say, that saved my life, that made my life better, that kind of thing. I spent 41 years in a little town, but this profession has taken me to Beijing, China, to Stockholm, Sweden, to South Africa, to Pine Ridge, to Acuna, and always back to this little town. And I think that that has been like the most wonderful thing of how I was able to spend a career. And I would encourage anybody to look at Parks and Recreation. Being in a small community, I had days where I did it all. I was on the legislative chair, I still am, for the New Hampshire Rec and Park Association. I may have started my morning testifying in the legislature, and then came back and reffed a soccer game and cleaned the hot dog steamer, and then had to change my clothes, because it's always important you change your clothes for the appropriate thing, and gone to a selectmen's meeting or a capital improvement meeting or anything. So the variety of what I was able to do every single day, I always say 41 years, I don't think I ever had the same day twice. It was always something different. And I think that I really encourage young people to look at this career.